Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for attending this session, this forum of studying in the UK. We're very happy to welcome 4 representatives from 4 universities, and you will learn a lot about each of them. And so we are welcoming your questions in the Q&A or the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we'll take the questions at the end. But I will leave the floor to our UK representative here, who will present their institutions and how does it work in terms of admissions process and everything. The floor is yours.
Excellent, thank you, Geraldine. So good afternoon, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Tim. I'm the International Officer for North America at the University of Essex. I do apologise for the sun that's just kind of blasting in my face at the moment. That wasn't happening a couple of minutes ago. Anyway, we are going to be presenting for the next hour on studying in the UK. So we're going to be covering a wide range of subjects, including applications, student finance, things like accommodation, as well. So as Geraldine had said, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit them through the Q&A, as we will have time at the end to be covering them. I am joined by a number of representatives from other UK universities who I will ask just to introduce themselves quickly now. Could we start with Rachel, please?
Hi everyone, my name's Rachel and I'm an international officer at Cardiff University, which is in Wales in the UK. So I'm your first point of contact for any questions that you have about Cardiff.
Thank you. Emma, can we have you next?
Hi, thanks Tim. Hi everyone, my name's Emma and I'm an International Relations Manager at the University of Nottingham. Also your first point of call for students from the Americas, so delighted to be here today.
Thank you. And finally, Alana, please.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. My name is Alana Stewart. I'm the Regional Manager for the University of East Anglia, and I am based stateside with all of you in Michigan.
Excellent, thank you very much. So you'll be hearing from all of us throughout the presentation. We will be including our contact details at the end of the presentation, and we'll be happy to send the presentation slides around, and I believe that it is being recorded as well. So for future reference, if you'd like to refer back, you will have a copy of the presentation. So we will begin. I am going to start on a slide suggesting why students should study in England. Now, you'll see the map on the right-hand side here that you will most likely be familiar with. So these here are the British Isles. It gets quite complicated when discussing the UK, obviously, as you have the UK, you have the British Isles, and you'll see that there are a number of constituent parts of the United Kingdom highlighted in white and red. So England is the largest of the 4 nations of the United Kingdom. We also have Wales, which Rachel will be able to discuss about later. We also have Scotland to the north. Their education system, whilst very similar to the UK, it does differ on a certain few points. Now, we have no Scottish representatives here today, but we'll be happy to discuss those in a moment. England itself is home to 55 million people, including 20,000 US students. The UK has always been a very popular destination for students from all around the world to be studying. We're the home of Shakespeare and fish and chips and Mr. Bean and tea and Benedict Cumberbatch and the Beatles and Gordon Ramsay and a number of other cultural exports that you may well have heard of. But more importantly, we're home to well over 100 universities. The UK is considered internationally as one of the leading education destinations next to the United States and Canada and Australia. We've been doing higher education for an awful long time. We're coming up close to 1,000 years now. So university level teaching started in the 12th century. Now, it's a fairly common misconception that when students, particularly from the US, come over to study in the UK, they'll be studying at an ancient university. So images of Hogwarts, for example, tend to be quite prevalent. Now, whilst this is true, and we do have a number of ancient universities in the United Kingdom, there aren't as many as you think. In fact, in England, we only have two ancient universities, which are Oxford and Cambridge. The vast majority of other universities in the UK are 19th century and beyond. So the University of Essex, for example, was founded in 1963, similar to the University of East Anglia. University of Nottingham is slightly older than that, I believe, starting in 1912, if I remember correctly, and I think Cardiff has got a slightly older history. But the point here is that the majority of universities in the UK are more modern than you think. England is home to the #1 international student city. That's the city of London. If you've ever flown to the UK, you'll be more than familiar with London. We have internationally respected degrees, and really kind of the most important point, particularly that we discuss with our US students, is that we have this early degree specialism, meaning that students can study what they love from day one. So we don't do general ed, and most courses are 3 years in duration in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. One of the differences of Scottish degrees is that they're 4 years in duration, but all 3 years are focused purely on the subject that you want to study, whether that be human rights or French law or biology or whatever it might be. Students become an expert in that subject area a lot quicker through a UK degree. I will now pass over to my colleague Rachel, who will talk about Wales.
Thanks, Tim. So as the only Welsh representative here today, I'm going to cover why you might want to study in Wales. So as you probably have gathered from the previous slide with Tim's map and also the map here on my slide, Wales is a lot smaller than England. But what we lack in size, we more than make up for in terms of the quality of our institutions. So we have 8 universities, which offer a really wide variety of programs and study experiences. So there really is something for everyone. We've got quite niche programs. We have big and small universities, some are in rural locations, some are in city centre locations. So there's something to suit every student's needs. In terms of Wales itself, we're known as being a very safe destination, a very affordable country, and a very friendly one as well. So we're known for our warm welcome once you cross the border. As Tim said, our degrees are typically 3 years in length, so the same as in England. And I'm just going to cover a few kind of key points about Wales, just in case you're not familiar, as I do think sometimes we go a bit under the radar. So we have about 3 million people, and within that about 129,000 are students. And we have some of the lowest living costs in the UK. So it's great for students who are thinking about studying somewhere where they can be on a budget. We also have Europe's oldest living language, so Welsh is spoken by about 20% of the population. You absolutely don't need to be able to speak it, everyone speaks English, but it's something that really sets us apart culturally and is something that is quite an interesting part of studying in Wales. So as soon as you cross the border, all of our street signs are bilingual, and it's something that we're really proud of as well. And if you do want to study it, there's plenty of opportunities to do so. We're particularly well known for our natural beauty in Wales. So we have 3 national parks, which make up nearly 25% of the country. And as you'll see from the map here, the vast majority of our country is bordered by the sea. So we have 870 miles of coastline, which means we have some of the world's best beaches. Definitely don't believe everything you hear. It doesn't always rain here, and there's nothing like being on a Welsh beach on a beautiful sunny day. And one of the best things about studying in Wales is that it's not a big country, so it's really easy to get everywhere within a short time. So if you are studying inland, it's really easy to reach the coast quickly. We also are great for history buffs, so we have about 600 castles, and that's more castles per square mile than anywhere else in Europe. So it's really hard to go too far without stumbling upon one. Even if you haven't heard of Wales or you haven't visited, it's possible that you've seen us on screen as well. So we are the filming location for Doctor Who, His Dark Materials and Sherlock. And actually those 3 shows are predominantly filmed in Cardiff. So you might even have seen glimpses of Cardiff and maybe even Cardiff University as well. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk a bit about why you might want to study in England and the rest of the UK. So kind of some of the key points. So as Tim mentioned, our degrees are typically 3 years in length. So there are some exceptions to this. So it is possible to study for longer. So for example, some professional courses, things like medicine and dentistry will be longer. It's also possible to build in extra years. So things like professional placement years, which are sort of like a paid internship, or study abroad years, and even an integrated master's. It's also worth noting, I think, that master's courses are typically 1 year in length. So you can do a bachelor's and a master's in the same time it would take you to do a bachelor's in the US. As Tim said, it's worth remembering as well that degrees are typically 4 years in Scotland, but for the rest of us, generally 3 years. And one of the reasons that our degrees are shorter is that you are choosing your major at the time you apply. So you are specialising in a subject from the very beginning. So we don't do general education. So it's a really good system for anybody who is passionate about a specific subject or really wants to kind of get stuck into one area and doesn't want to study lots of other classes in different subjects. Tim also mentioned that the UK has one of the best education systems in the world. So with that, it means that you have a truly international experience because we attract students from all over the world to all of our universities. So no matter which university you choose, it's very likely that it's going to be a really diverse, multicultural experience. We have a big variety of university types. So from the ancient universities that Tim mentioned to the more modern ones, we have campus universities, city universities, and it's really worth remembering this when you're looking at different university options, as you can tailor your choices to suit the type of university you want to study in. If you do decide to apply to the UK, you will probably do so via Ucas, which is the University and Colleges Admissions Service. And I think we're going to go into a bit more detail on this shortly, but it allows you to apply to up to 5 universities in the UK. And then some institutions will also accept applications via the Common App. Studying in the UK also means that you're on the doorstep for the rest of Europe. So as well as having really good transport links within the UK itself, so it's really easy to get between our different cities, it's also very quick to get to many different parts of Europe. So students will often use this as a jumping off point to perhaps spend the weekend in Paris, for example. So unlike in the US where you'd be facing long flight times to get to other parts of Europe, all of that is right on your doorstep. If you do decide to study in the UK, you'll apply for a student visa, which allows you to work for up to 20 hours per week. So you would be able to work while you're studying, and this is often a way that students supplement their living costs as well. A lot of us will have jobs available within the universities or often in our local areas too. And something that we're really excited about is the brand new 2-year post-study work visa, which is a government process that's going to start in 2021 and will allow you to stay in the UK for up to 2 years after you finish your degree. So it's a really good opportunity if you're thinking about perhaps looking for a job when you graduate, and it means that you don't have to rush home after you finish studying. So if I could have the next slide, please, Tim. Thank you. So when you're thinking about the UK, it's worth kind of considering if it's the right sort of study destination for you. So these are a few things that universities here are looking for from their applicants. So one of the key things is that we expect students to be self-motivated and capable of independent study. So that's not to say that there's not considerable support available for students here. There is a huge amount of support and resources available for you, but it's a system that suits students who are happy to manage their own time, perhaps conduct independent research and kind of be more self-motivated in terms of how they study. It goes without saying that because you choose your major at the time of application, you need to be passionate about your subject area. And studying abroad means that being open-minded, mature, and excited about being in a new environment and around new cultures is really beneficial when you're thinking about studying in the UK. So I think I'm handing over to Tim again now to talk to you about the application process.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so as Rachel had touched upon earlier, when applying to the UK, the vast majority of applications are made through a system which is known as Ucas. UCAS, it's an acronym which stands for University and Colleges Admissions Service. You can consider it sort of equivalent to the Common App in the US. Now, whilst there are a few universities in the UK which do accept applications through the Common App and some others who accept direct applications, Ucas is by far the most straightforward and most commonly used means of application to the UK, and they handle tens of thousands of applications each year. It's an online application and it allows students to apply for up to 5 different programs or universities. So they have 5 choices in making a Ucas application. There's one set application fee, which is very affordable, again, in comparison to applying to US colleges. So it's around $31 for all 5 applications. Now, there are a couple of deadlines which students will need to be aware of. Applications can be made up to a year in advance. There is an early deadline which some students might be required to consider, and that's on the 15th of October. This is the deadline for students looking to apply for medicine courses, courses in the field of dentistry, and courses to Oxford and Cambridge. You can apply to one or the other, not both, as they are fairly competitive with one another. The reason for this earlier deadline is that these courses in universities have a slightly different admissions process, in that students will be required to sit an external examination, or might be required to sit an interview in the admissions process. But for the vast majority of other courses and at other universities, the second deadline is on the 15th of January. This is what's known as the equal consideration deadline. All applications which are handed in before this deadline need to be given equal weighting by admissions officers at UK universities. Any applications received after this deadline don't necessarily have to be given the same weighting. This said, many universities in the UK will continue to accept applications beyond the January deadline. If there are particular courses which fill up quickly, or very competitive institutions, they might adhere more to the 15th of January deadline. But particularly for international applicants, you'll find that a lot of universities will accept applications beyond. This said, it's worthwhile getting your application in early, beyond just before the January deadline, as it makes it so much easier to apply for things like scholarships and accommodation, and ultimately your student visa. Which we will discuss later on in the presentation. Entry requirements are set by each university. We will go over our entry requirements in our slides later on. But you'll be able to find these advertised on most universities' websites. Similarly, on the Ucas website, it's not just an application portal. So it's got a wealth of information for students to take a look at ahead of making an application, including a list of all of the courses which are available in the UK at each university, course breakdown, entry requirements for specific courses, etc. So I'd strongly advise, if you're looking at making an application to the UK, that the Ucas is your starting point, as it has all of the information for UK universities in it. Most universities will accept a combination of high school diploma and AP tests, SAT, ACT. I'm aware that the majority of students here will be taking the French back, and again, we are very well versed in taking, our admissions officers are very well versed in taking multiple international qualifications, and you'll find them advertised usually on the country pages of universities' websites. You don't need to have completed tests or examinations before you apply. So you apply usually a year in advance of admission. Offers are made on a conditional basis. So usually universities will take a look at your grades to date, or your predicted grades, which will be set by your counsellor, and will make what's known as a conditional offer, which essentially says, okay, we see that you're predicted 13, let's say, in the French back, provided that you achieve the score, you will gain entry to the university. UK universities tend to be very grades focused in the admissions process, so different from the sort of the more holistic side of US admissions, where they're looking for a completely well-rounded character. You'll find that admissions officers will look at grades first and foremost, but they will also consider what's called a personal statement. So this is a short essay provided by the student detailing their motivations for the course, any professional ambitions they might have, any reading around the subject that they've done, etc. Basically illustrating that they are a enthusiastic and competent student for that subject, and also a letter of recommendation. This will usually come from a counsellor or a teacher, and again will illustrate that the student is the right fit for this particular course. Extracurricular activities are less important in making a UK application. We don't really require you or require students to be illustrating all of this in their personal statement. The personal statement tends to be focused purely on the student's relationship to the course. Universities differ in terms of the percentage that a personal statement should focus on course interest and sort of extracurricular activities. At Essex, we usually advise a 70-30 split based on course interest and extracurriculars. We do have a very handy personal statement guide, which I will share in the chat later on in this presentation. Another thing worth noting is that UK universities don't require you to demonstrate interest in one particular university. Okay, so when you're making a Ucas application, your one application will be sent to all 5 universities. So it will be to your detriment to mention one specific institution unless that was the only university that you're making an application to. Admissions tests and assessments and then interviews are uncommon but not unheard of. So there are certain specific subjects like medicine, which would usually require either an examination known as the BMAT or the UKCAT. There are 9 universities in the UK currently, I believe, who accept what's known as the LNAT, so that's an entrance examination for law. Vast majority of law schools don't require an entrance examination, and Oxford and Cambridge have their own admissions processes also, which will involve either testing or an interview or both. Portfolios might be required for students looking to study practical art-based courses, and auditions might be required for students looking to study acting or drumming. So for example, the University of Essex is home to East 15, which is one of the UK's leading acting schools, and they audition in the US, usually in New York and California each year. That, I believe, is everything for myself. I am now going to pass over.
Thank you very much, Tim. I think many of you have probably heard about student experience in the UK, but the UK really does cater for international students. There are thousands of international students in every city and university, and each offers something unique. So whilst there's no typical student experience as such, you can still have an amazing time wherever you choose to study and pursue all the activities you're interested in, and try something new. It really is up to you. Every university has a students' union, and these are all members of the National Union of Students in the UK, which will be over 100 years old next year. And they represent the student community, student voice, and they're the hubs of student life and all the activities from live music to charity events and hundreds of student clubs and societies. So whichever university you choose, you can choose to join any of the societies. As I said, there's something for everyone. So that could be debating or TEDx, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, human rights, politics, Amnesty International, UNICEF, creative writing, lots of sports societies, and many different cultural societies as well. So it's a great way to try something new, make new friends, and travel around the UK and Europe as well. In fact, Rachel mentioned transport links. All our universities are close to local airports where you can travel to other European destinations with low-cost airlines for less than $100. You can pay as little as $50 for some one-way tickets. So lots of international students love this option and take advantage during long weekends and holidays as well. Our universities offer study abroad options as well. This is because we have hundreds of partnerships with universities all over the world. So you can have the UK as a hub and study in a different country for a semester. So it's a really fantastic opportunity to experience another culture and widen your networks as well. Sports are really popular in UK universities, and we have amazing sports facilities so you can practice to compete or just at recreational level to try something new. And there's something for everyone. We have amazing sports facilities, and it plays a big part in promoting student health and well-being as well. It's a really welcoming community on each campus. Again, Rachel mentioned the options to actually work after you graduate, and there are plenty of opportunities while you're studying at the university in the UK as well. So you can work for up to 20 hours, and there are lots of different opportunities. So students can choose flexible hours around your studies. Universities hold career events where they invite employers, where you can network and make contacts in those kind of ways. So there's something that can fit into your studies, whether you want to study part-time for a number of hours per week or every now and again. There are lots of different options as well. And because there are thousands of international students on every campus, Every university offers international student support. So there are teams to help you with everything from introducing you to universities like ourselves, visa advice and support, health services, student buddies and mentors, counselling and wellbeing, and even accommodation support, which leads me on to the next slide, Tim, to talk about accommodation options in the UK. So all our universities offer guaranteed student dorms for international students, and the majority of UK universities as well. So you can choose contracts that run for the whole year, so that you don't have to move out during holidays, and many international students who can't travel home during holidays choose this option. And there are often activities and events taking place out of term time, so there will always be somebody there and something to do in your accommodation blocks as well. Now, one of the main advantages of university accommodation is that you don't have to share dorms. There are so many different options. You can choose ensuite rooms where you have your own private bathroom and share a kitchen with maybe 6 or 8 other students. And that's another nice way to make friends as well, away from your course, share meal times. Or if you prefer your meals provided, you can choose catered accommodation as well, where there's a monthly dinner, and you might have breakfast and dinner in your dorms and spend your lunch on campus somewhere. But student dorms in the UK are really affordable. The average cost, as you can see here, is around $650. If you prefer a bit more luxury, then you can choose to pay a bit more. But if you want to save on your accommodation and spend more on your social life and travel, then there are certainly more affordable options. And each hall of residence has an in-house tutor. And that's someone who's available 24 hours to help you with whatever you need. And that can sometimes be a PhD student, so they can offer good advice because they're familiar with the university. There's never any shame in asking for help. And there's a great support network in universities, including pastoral care and a personal tutor. So they can be your go-to person for academic or personal issues, a bit like what you're used to in school as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. So we're going to wrap this up a little bit with these last 2 slides, and then we're each going to talk about our own universities. So the price is right when we talk about the UK, especially if you tend to be looking in the US, especially out of state. Our tuition fees are extremely competitive, and they usually start around 20 to 25,000 US dollars. And that is going to be dependent on the university. So you do want to check out each university on its own. There is going to be living costs as well. So you might know this as room and board. The UK Visa and Immigration team does set a number for students both inside and outside of London. I want to say it's around 16,000 for the year for London universities, and then about 13,000 for outside of London. So there is that cost differential since living in London is so much more expensive. So ballpark, I want to say it's probably around 35,000 per year. Again, that's going to look very similar to what you might see for an out-of-state institution, if not more affordable. Remember that we've said probably multiple times now that the courses are 3 years long with the exception of Scotland. So that's 1 year at least less in tuition fees that you're going to have to pay. There are some exceptions to that, and we did mention that there are some options to maybe do a year abroad or a year in industry built into your degree. While that does extend the degree program to 4 years, during that year abroad or that year in industry or placement year, you're usually not paying full tuition and fees. You're just paying about a third or a quarter of the cost for that additional year. So a lot of the times it's worth building it in and having that experience to write on your resume when you do graduate from the university. Living costs are going to vary depending on what you choose and if you're on campus or off campus. So you can usually choose a residence facility that's going to fit within your budget, which is the nice thing about the UK. We don't kind of have a one cost fits all scenario. So if you have a little bit more to spend, you can choose maybe an ensuite option, or if you have a little bit less to spend, maybe you are going to share a room potentially if the university that you're looking at offers that. So there is that flexibility in there with your budget. We did also mention already too, that students are able to work. While this isn't going to cover the full cost of tuition fees or the cost of living, in its entirety, it is going to be able to provide a little bit of fun money. So when you want to go out, or if you want to go shopping, eat out at a restaurant, that's kind of going to be a little bit of your buffer money there. And it's about 20 hours per week that you can work on campus or off campus. And then when you're not in classes, so during any breaks, you're able to work the full time, so about 40 hours. Again, either on or off campus for students. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with this last slide and the general information. Just if you want to advance it, Tim. There we go. So how do you find out more? Step one, attending this presentation is an awesome place to start, and getting to talk to each one of us and hearing a little bit about our universities. All of our websites, if you Google, for example, UEA plus USA, you should be able to find a US dedicated web page. We also do lay out our programs very well in the UK. So if you just Google the name of the university plus the name of the program, you should see the course page. But virtually every single UK university does have somebody that will be in charge of the US. So please make sure to reach out to them. That's what we're here for. We also might have student ambassadors that you can speak with, so current students who are living the experience. So if you want to hear the technical side, usually it's best to reach out to the admissions officers, or if you want to see kind of more of that student life, student experience side, students can be great at that. Ucas.com is a great place to start researching programs, to get a lot of information on the universities and learn more about the application process that Tim already outlined for you. There are some university guides as well. You may hear rankings if that's something you want to look at. There are a few that do exist out there for the UK. So it's The Guardian, Times Higher does rankings, also QS World Rankings. Those are a couple of places. You can also check out the Complete University Guide. And then the student room has the student perspective. I think us as professionals cringe a little bit, but that's a great place to go because you are getting the perspective directly from the student. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us, check out our social media pages, and really just utilize us, because this is what we're here for, is to talk to you about the UK and about our universities. So now we're going to start off with UEA. Which is my university, the University of East Anglia. So again, my name is Alana. I am based in Michigan. So I am the person that is here to work with students at all levels, really, in the United States as well as Canada. University of East Anglia is also known as UEA, and we are based in Norwich, England. If you want to head to the next slide for me, Tim. So we were founded in 1963. We're relatively young. That's the same time, actually, around the time that Essex was founded. So Tim's university as well. Again, we are located in Norwich, England, about an hour and a half northeast of London by train. We do talk about Norwich being one of the key features. It's an affordable place to live. It's a safe place to live. It's been named one of the best cities. And also we have one of the highest number of vegan restaurants per person. The reason why I mentioned that also is just to talk about the eclectic nature that is Norwich. So for a relatively small city of about 130,000 people, we do have a lot to offer. And people just fall in love with the area. It's in the countryside, kind of on the east side of England. And again, it's really one of the features that students fall in love with. Our campus is about 3 miles from the proper city center of Norwich. But we do have a campus-based university. We also have professors doing top-level research, contributing to their fields. And like the vast majority of the UK institutions, we are public. We have about 160 undergraduate programs. So a lot of the programs you might be looking for, we do have to offer. And that's with a campus size of about 17,000, of which 17% are international. And just to establish us, as you may have never heard of UEA, we are a World Top 200 institution and a UK Top 25 university. And that building in the background too is our new science facility. So that's kind of cool. We have a new emphasis on engineering and then the new science building as well. So Tim, next slide. This is our lovely campus built on 320 acres of green land. You can see our accommodations, so our student residence facilities noted with the house in the pink circle. We have one of the largest indoor sports parks sports parks in Great Britain, featuring a rock climbing wall and an Olympic-sized swimming pool. You can see all the pitches, fields, and courts that are there. We do have a student union that Emma was talking about. We have a live music venue and get 60 or more live music gigs per year. The library is open 24/7 for students. And we do have the Sainsbury Center for Visual Arts, and that was featured in the Avengers films. So if you have seen the movies, which I'm sure most of you have, you've actually seen our campus. It doubles as the Avengers headquarters. And so it's a really great place to be. It's a decent sized campus, but at the same time, it's not too overwhelming for students. So heading to the next slide. Our requirements, cost, and scholarship, just to get this out of the way. Most UK schools are FAFSA eligible, so you are able to bring over FAFSA loans, and if you are eligible for them, and you can take them over to the UK, and as mentioned, you can work. UEA does have competitive scholarships for right now. If you get an offer, you receive £4,000 for the first year. You can apply by scholarship or apply by essay rather, for up to £8,000 per year. It's recommended that you do that because I think even if you don't get the £8,000, you'll at least get £4,000 per year. So it's worth writing those two small essays in order to apply for that. Our total cost started at about $34,000 US. Again, that is a ballpark figure. You can probably live a little bit more affordably than that. And the requirements are there. French baccalaureate degree, we're going to look for about a 12 to 15, depending on the course. If you're in a regular curriculum, we're looking for normal US standards. It's about a 3.3 GPA, 3 AP or IB exams, or an SAT or an ACT. We also look for interviews or auditions. If you're just in French bac, you don't need to worry about APs or any of the additional testings. We would just look at the French baccalaureate. And I think that is me. Yes. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Tim.
Awesome, thank you very much, Alana. I actually studied at the University of East Anglia myself. We are rival universities, the University of Essex and the University of East Anglia, but I can say that is a fantastic university with some amazing courses that it offers. So I'm going to talk about the University of Essex. Similar to UEA, we were established in the 1960s. There are a number of universities in the UK which were established. In this time period, there was a government report which had said that universities needed to be more inclusive for the general UK population. So as a result, the universities of Essex, York, Warwick, East Anglia, and Sussex were all built around the 1960s. We started with a fairly radical political beginning. So within a couple of years of the university opening, our students took over the university and declared it a free university for just over a year. Whilst those sort of radical politics have softened in the past 50 or 60 years where we've been operating, that sort of rebellious spirit is something which continues to be seen in our student body and reflects our strength in particular courses. So the University of Essex is particularly famous for courses in the field of social sciences, most notably human rights, law, and politics. We have around 15,000 students. Over 35% of our student body are considered overseas, with over 140 nationalities represented. Many students from North America, and of course many students from Europe as well. We've got 3 campuses which are all located under an hour from London. So you'll see on the map here, we have our Loughton campus, which is actually based sort of in London. That's home to our acting school, East 15. We have our Colchester campus, which is the one that you see behind me and in the photo there, which is our largest campus and home to most of our students. And then we also have our Southend campus as well, which is home to some acting courses and our business school. All of them are located well within an hour of London. So our Colchester campus, for example, is located 45 minutes on the train. Another thing that's great about the UK is that the public transport is so good. So everyone gets around on trains and buses, and there's no need to learn to drive on the wrong side of the road or learn how to drive a stick. So why do US students choose us? What I really love about my role is that we welcome around 100 students from the US to the University of Essex for undergraduate and postgraduate each year. And they all come to the university for entirely different reasons. As I mentioned before, there are some courses where we are particularly famous. So one which might be of interest to students from OFALycée is our double degree English and French law program. It's the largest double degree program in the UK, where students can study for 2 years at the University of Essex and 1 year in France, in either Toulouse or Lyon or Paris. And then students will gain legal qualifications under both systems, and will be able to move on to the future qualifying steps. We've got large scholarships available for this program as well, so this might be one which may well be of interest to students from this school. All of our campuses are located very close to London, so a large campus university, but it's very easy to get in and out of the city, and we've got less living costs, which will be associated with living in London. So this again is of great appeal to our US students. We're home to the leading, according to the Guardian subject ranking, acting school in the UK, which is known as East 15. It's a conservatoire style acting school, so students can do courses in acting, world performance, physical theatre, stage combat, and it's the only non-American school in the world to be recognised by IRTA. So as I mentioned before, when we audition for places in the US each year, we do so alongside IRTA in California and New York each year. I think we were the second university in the UK, or sorry, in Europe, to approach human rights as an academic discipline, and our Human Rights Centre is a recognised world leader. So we have a number of courses in the field of human rights and international humanitarian law. You'll see on the top photo there, those are some of our human rights students. So they write the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in their native tongue on the steps each year. It's known as Chalking the Steps, and it's one of the many traditions which we have on campus. We're also 29th in the world for politics and international studies, so courses like international relations, political discourse, those kind of things. And we've got a large number of academic and sports scholarships available. We're home to one of the leading basketball and volleyball programs in the UK, and we have many scholarships available for US and European students, which I will be happy to discuss later. That's everything from myself. I will now pass on to Rachel.
Thanks, Tim. So I'm going to talk a bit about Cardiff University. So we are a traditional UK university. We were established in 1883 and we're one of the largest UK universities. So we have around 33,000 students. And then within that, about 8,500 are international students from over 130 different countries. So it's a very diverse international university. Cardiff's particularly well known for its research. We're a member of the Russell Group, so these are the 24 research-led institutions in the UK, and it's kind of a mark of quality when you're looking at different universities in the UK. We're also 5th in the UK for research quality as well. So this is something that really underpins your studies. So it means you're being taught by academics who are cutting edge, who are teaching you things that won't make it into textbooks for maybe a year to 2 years to come. So it's a really important aspect of your studies, even if maybe research isn't something that you would necessarily think of as part of an undergraduate degree. We are a top 160 university in the world, according to the QS World Rankings. And as a large institution, we've got a real breadth of course options available. So we have over 300 different degree programs to choose from. So there's something for everyone, no matter what you're interested in. Similarly to what Tim was saying, we welcome students from the US into a really wide range of programs. But some of the popular courses are things like journalism and media. So we have one of the best journalism schools in the UK, international relations as well. And that's a department that's seen a huge amount of investment in recent years and is something that's really popular with US students in particular. Also things like history, biosciences, psychology, computer science, but we have a huge range on offer. So there's definitely something for everyone, as I said. We have one of the best students' unions in the UK. So we're currently 3rd in the UK, but we tend to hover in the top 5. We have over 200 different clubs and societies to choose from. So there's a huge variety available for students. And some of the sports that we have on offer are things like football, both American and British, or soccer, but things like basketball, and tennis, things like that, huge range. But we also have really interesting societies. There's a Harry Potter society. There was, up until at least recently, a custard wrestling society, which I still don't fully understand. But again, it shows you that kind of breadth of what's available for you in terms of your outside of your studies. We also have great employment prospects. So about 95% of our graduates are in employment or further education shortly after graduation. And that's partly a tribute to our excellent careers service as well. So we've got really good connections with employers, both locally and internationally. And we certainly advise you to take advantage of our careers service as soon as you arrive, and to kind of make the most of all the services that they have to help you. We guarantee accommodation for international students for every year of your degree. So most students will choose that in the first year, and then look to perhaps live with friends in the city after that. Accommodation in Cardiff is very affordable, so it's really easy to find private accommodation if you wish to, but you have that fallback that you always know it's going to be guaranteed each year for you. We are kind of a cross between a city and a campus university, in the sense that we're based right in the heart of Cardiff, but we're not a campus because it's not self-contained, but everything is very close together. So you get the best of both worlds in that respect. And on the next slide, I'm going to talk a bit more about Cardiff, as I think that's one of the best parts about studying at Cardiff University. Thanks, Tim. So as I said, we're based right in the heart of Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales. As a capital city, we're actually quite small. We have a population of about 350,000, so a lot smaller than London, for example. But you've got everything you could possibly want from a capital city. So all the shops, restaurants, nightlife, sports venues, but on a really small scale. And it's also one of the most affordable student cities in the UK. So again, I feel like you have the best of everything as a student in Cardiff. It's very compact, so you can walk everywhere. You don't even really need public transport. You certainly don't need a car, but most students will tend to walk or cycle everywhere. And it's a really safe, really friendly city. It's also a very green city, so we have about 330 parks and gardens in Cardiff. The largest is Butte Park, which is right next to the university, and the castle that you see in this picture here is right at the end of the park, and then it stretches back out of the city. But this is a 2,000-year-old castle, which again is really close to the university and is definitely worth exploring. We have great shopping, so Cardiff's become more and more of a shopping destination. We have all the kind of main shops you would expect, but we also have these really interesting Victorian and Edwardian shopping arcades, which are full of independent shops, cafes and restaurants, and again are something that tend to draw a lot of people to the city. We are 2 hours west of London, so you can get a direct train that goes straight from the centre of Cardiff to the centre of London, and we have our own airport as well, so you can fly to many other parts of the UK or parts of Europe. You can fly to the US as well. You'd have to connect in Dublin or Amsterdam, but it's a really good thing for students to be able to kind of get from Cardiff Airport to many different European destinations in particular. We also have really easy access to the mountains and beautiful coastlines. So as I mentioned when I was talking about Wales in general, it's a really beautiful country, and one of the kind of biggest draws for people is the natural beauty. And all of that is on your doorstep. So we're less than an hour from one of the national parks that I mentioned. We're about a 20-minute walk from a harbour area in Cardiff, so Cardiff Bay, and then really close to some beautiful beaches as well. So all of that is on your doorstep, but you still have that benefit of being right in the heart of an international capital city as well. So I think that's it from me. I'm going to pass on to Emma.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, so I'm going to give you a whistle-stop virtual tour of the University of Nottingham. It's actually a very old traditional university, almost the same age as Cardiff actually. So it was established in 1881 as a college and is a founding member of the Russell Group universities. So as Rachel probably mentioned, this is a British equivalent of the Ivy League in the US. Nottingham features as a QS Top 100 university and a Top 20 UK university, and ranks 8th in the UK for research power. And universities are now also ranked on teaching standards, and Nottingham has won the highest award in teaching excellence, and that's thanks to our inspiring academics, In fact, MRI technology was developed at Nottingham by Sir Peter Mansfield. He was a physicist who won the Nobel Prize for Medicine alongside Peter Lauterbur, who was an American chemist. Nottingham has a strong reputation for sports and is currently Sports University of the Year for the second time in 3 years, and second in the British University and College Sports League. So we're really proud of our sporting achievements, but this is not just based on our position in the Books League. It's based on participation, inclusivity, our sports facilities, and there's really something for everyone in terms of sports. So whether you're an elite athlete who wishes to compete whilst you're studying, or someone wanting to keep fit and try new things, there'll be something for you on the university campus. Just moving on to the next slide, please, Tim. So Nottingham has overseas campuses in China and Malaysia. They're award-winning campuses. They've won awards. For example, the University Park campus in Nottingham has won a sustainability award for the last 17 years. Our international campuses really provide a fantastic opportunity for students to study part of their degrees or their whole course in any of our campuses. And we are a campus university, so that means that students can live on campus and for the duration of their course. So we guarantee accommodation for all our international students for their entire course as well. Our campuses are beautiful green campuses. The image that you saw in the previous slide was our iconic Trent building, and there's a replica of that building in our campuses in China and Malaysia as well. Now, in terms of what we offer for studies, we have 5 faculties offering programs at all levels. So medicine and health sciences, engineering, arts, science and social science. So that's everything from business and finance, economics, law, sociology, engineering, pharmacy, to name a few of our strongest areas. And in fact, medicine and life sciences has a world reputation. We're ranked in the top 75 in the QS World Rankings, and pharmacy is actually the university's strongest subject, and it forms part of our history as a university. We're ranked 5th in the world for pharmacy. And a graduate from our School of Pharmacy and the chain of pharmacies Boots developed ibuprofen. In terms of our student population, so without a global pandemic, we would normally welcome around 47,000 students across all our campuses. Around 33,000 of those students are based in the UK, and normally around 8,000 are international students, and that includes our exchange students with our partner universities as well. So that includes students from the US. Okay, moving on to our employability ranking. So Nottingham is a top 70 university for employability. We've talked about our career services. There are many different networking opportunities to connect with employers at Nottingham. They visit the university and deliver guest lectures. And we also offer lifelong membership of our career service. And there are several scholarship opportunities on offer for high achieving students from the Americas of various amounts, and that does include 2 separate sports specific scholarships depending on the level that you're competing. We offer a great student experience at Nottingham. It's a really friendly community. It's a campus uni, so all the university students live on campus, practice sports, walk to their classes and get involved in all the different clubs and societies on campus. So you can try Quidditch, climbing. One of our sports facilities, our David Ross Sports Village, has an indoor climbing wall as well. So there's a gorgeous national park close to Nottingham called the Peak District, which is renowned for climbing. So you can practice indoors and join the climbing club and go outdoors as well. But it's a really great way to make friends and see a lot more of the UK as well. And Nottingham as a city is a friendly, historic city. We have a castle. It's right in the centre of England, as you can see on the map. It's less than 2 hours north of London by train. So you have the best of both worlds. You can visit the capital in a day or a long weekend. And you also have access to other areas of natural beauty as well in the UK. There's a great nightlife in Nottingham, but also cultural activities, as it's a UNESCO City of Literature, as well as being famous for Robin Hood and Sherwood Forest. So you can go on a tour of the city, the castle, and there's also a network of caves in Nottingham, which some of the bars and restaurants are built into. So it has a really quirky feel to the centre as well, with cobbled streets. And there's also an airport that offers low-cost flights to European cities, so you can enjoy exploring the rest of the UK and Europe while you're here. So let's stay in touch. I'll be delighted to hear from you if you want some more information after today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Emma. So I think we're pretty much on time. We should have a few minutes for questions. So whilst I ask you to submit any remaining questions that you might have, you can see our contact details on the screen there. I can ask the presenters just to type those into the chat as well. I think that we were given just the one question so far, which is the high school diploma considered equivalent to British A-levels for entry into UK universities? Who would like to answer that one? Rachel looks keen.
In terms of the US high school diploma, generally no, we would need additional tests. So for us, it would be 3 AP tests. But there's quite a wide variety in terms of entry requirements across the universities in the UK. But as I think Tim mentioned earlier, we do accept the French baccalaureate on its own, so you wouldn't need additional tests with the French bac. But if it's just a US high school diploma, then typically most universities wouldn't accept that on its own.
Sorry, I think I just froze there. So I think that was the only question actually that we have. If you have anything else, please feel free to submit them. I'll ask now all of the participants just to put in the chat their contact details. As I've mentioned before, I'm just going to put in there a guide to writing personal statements. This is really useful if you're looking to make an application to the UK, as it's got example personal statements that you can use, as well as sort of a guide on how to get started. If there's nothing else from the participants, Geraldine, would you have any questions?
I reappear. Okay. I just want to thank you very much, for joining us for this hour. We learn a lot. I think families and students are just processing for a while for everything you said, and it's so interesting. And I think you offer such a wide variety of options for students here, and all of us, at OFALycée and other high school. Obviously, the UK is a very, very, very interesting and on the top of the list of the destinations for our students. So this is definitely for us a great opportunity to know you, to know people who will be obviously in charge of, US applications, and our students will prepare for US, obviously high school diploma and French bac. I assume that might be just a very general final question. I assume that we would present one or the other first. How would you recommend for students who have a dual diploma? How should we approach and guide, besides writing to you, about which one should we put first?
So what would be the 2 qualifications that they'd be applying with there, Geraldine?
I mean, for example, Ucas, when you enter you have the opportunity to enter everything, obviously. AP scores, French bac. This mix, should the family and students, maybe contact university first and explain the situation, or just put everything, like the French bac subjects, AP subjects, SAT, whatever, everything?
Understood. I mean, I'd say there's no harm in including both in the application, particularly if they fit the entry requirements which are advertised by the university. But if they wanted to sort of check ahead of time, I suppose it would differ by admissions office. So this is why it's worthwhile having the contacts of the international staff at each university, because we usually have a direct line with admissions where we can discuss. We have this particular student who's applying for this course. They have such and such in the APs, such and such in the back. You know, there would be no sort of favoritism, I suppose, on the qualification.
With everything, students
both are accepted. So you know, if there was a case where, for example, they had done better in their APs, say the entry requirement was 443, and they'd achieved that in the APs, but their French back was at a 10 or 11, and it fell below sort of our general entry requirement. In that instance, it would obviously be advisable to apply with a stronger qualification. But if they both fit, there's certainly no harm in adding them to the application, particularly if the course requires students to prove like a particular proficiency in an area. So for example, if a student's looking to apply for biology, we're going to need to see that biology has been taken at a higher level. So should they have biology AP alongside their French back, then it will be worthwhile putting it in.
Okay. Well, it's 1 p.m. here. It's already 6, I think, for you or not, you know, or here in the US, in Michigan, it's a little bit maybe different. So thank you very much. I think a lot of parents will come back to us and to you. We are very pleased. I want to thank you, Tim, for coordinating everything. And thank you, Gwen. Also, I know she's listening. She's our community manager, and she's also the one who will be organizing these type of events. But thank you very much for your time. We learned a lot, and we're eager, obviously, to move forward with more, you know, individual, probably conversations for our applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.